This past weekend, Captain America Brave New World opened in theaters, so it's time to rank all 4 MCU Captain America movies from worst to best. If you're wondering why I'm not including the Captain America movies from 1979, 1990, or the serialized Captain America movie from 1944, it's because those were TV movies, or essentially a mini-series, so I don't think it's fair to judge them by the same merit as the big-budget theatrical films. So for the purposes of this list, I'm only counting the MCU Captain America films. Also, I gave every movie on this list an A, so just because one is in last place or one of the lower spots doesn't mean I didn't like the movie, it just means I think the ones higher up on the list are better. With that in mind, let's get started. Number 4, Captain America Civil War. Now, I think this has one of the best fight sequences in any MCU film. The plot is compelling, but the reason it's in last place is, let's be honest, it's not really a Captain America movie so much as it is an Avengers movie. What also holds it back is two things about the film that I don't care for. The first being the issue of trying to make Cap and Sharon a couple. The way they end Cap's story to Endgame, where he goes back to live with Peggy, now means that in retrospect, in that scene, he's kissing his niece. And even before we knew that, he only met her one movie ago and knew so little about her that he didn't even know Sharon was related to Peggy until Peggy's funeral. So either way, it's weird.
Yeah. Weird. Yeah. Weird.
The Russo brothers needed to pull a George Lucas and make an edit where he's not kissing her. They also wrote Endgame, so let this be a lesson in going back and reading what you previously written. The other issue is Spider-Man's intro scene. Aunt May just lets Tony Stark, this adult stranger, be alone with her teenage nephew, where Stark then proceeds to lock the door and then tell Peter to lie to May about where he's going with him without her supervision and what he's doing with him. She's not a good guardian. An almost perfect film, but it falls a bit short because of the issues. Number 3, Brave New World. When this movie was first announced, I was very pessimistic. They announced this movie right after the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was a show I was more negative on, and they announced that the director is the same as Cloverfield Paradox, which, as a standalone movie not connected to Cloverfield, is watchable, but as a Cloverfield movie, is not good. There are all these reports about reshoots and delaying the film after negative test screenings, and I think this is an example of where delaying the film actually helped it. Rogue One had reshoots, and even people who didn't like Disney Star Wars really liked that movie. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I liked this movie. One of my main problems with the Falcon series was they wrote him very cocky and arrogant, but here he isn't like that. He's actually likable. And his issue is this: how he's going to lead a new Avengers team and dealing with the weight and burden of that, and it's done really well. The action sequences in this movie really stand out. If you're a fan of some of the more street-level, grounded MCU projects like Daredevil or the Hawkeye series, it's very much in line with that. Much like the Russo brothers' Captain America films, this feels like a political action thriller first, and a comic book movie second, and that's a good thing. At a time where a lot of the MCU is starting to feel very assembly-line and micromanaged, this is a movie that still has its own identity. Even if you're not a comic book fan, you can enjoy the film if you're a fan of Mission Impossible, Jack Ryan, those kind of movies. It takes things like MKUltra and puts it in a comic book world. It doesn't even really start to feel like a comic book movie until the last 15 or 20 minutes. The plot is pretty intriguing. Harrison Ford is a standout performance, and I do kind of joke that this is, in essence, sort of a sequel to Air Force One. Giancarlo Esposito is a great villain in this. The film has a bit of a darker tone than some of the other MCU projects. I'd say this is the darkest Captain America movie yet, but it's not the level of dark that was Doctor Strange 2, Agatha, or Werewolf by Night. It still has enough lightheartedness that it stops it from feeling nihilistic. Now, the original title for the movie was New World Order, but they changed it to Brave New World because apparently the New World Order title made people uncomfortable, and I just ask, why? New World Order would have been a better title because it's referring to the plan of the villains. Now, what does hold it back is it does unfortunately require a lot of homework. You need to have seen the 2008 Hulk movie, all the Captain America movies, Infinity War, Endgame, and Eternals. Other than that, feeling a bit too late by previous projects, it's still a fantastic film. And the reason it's higher than Civil War is because it actually feels like a standalone Captain America solo movie and not just an Avengers team-up. So it's a little bit higher just because it actually feels like it's about the title character. Number 2, First Avenger. Up to this point in the MCU, we've had main characters who are geniuses, scientists, or gods. The main character in this one is none of those things. He's just an ordinary guy who's trying to do his best to do the right thing despite the challenges he was born into. And even after getting his powers, he doesn't let it go to his head, as is so often the case with these stories. He remains true to who he was before the serum. He doesn't fight for fame or glory or wealth. He fights because he wants to defend the country and people he loves. Setting the film in World War II makes it stand out for the rest of the films in the MCU, as none of the other films really have that same style. It's got great action, a great script, and my favorite character of the MCU. And in first place is Winter Soldier. This movie is perfect. Even honest trailers couldn't make fun of it. It's also arguably the most accessible MCU movie, as it doesn't feel like a comic book movie at all. It's more of a Tom Clancy-esque political thriller. The action is well done, the story is intriguing, Cap and Black Widow have great chemistry, which makes me mad that they don't end up together. The villain is one of the best non-superpowered villains in the MCU with a despicable plan. This is one of my favorite non-Avengers MCU films. It's one of the best films in the MCU, and it's the best Captain America movie. It comes in at number 1. Go ahead and share your ranking of the Captain America films, and I will see you next time.